If I Should Die by Donevy Westphal. Available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other retailers.
Providence, Julius snorted. Deuteronomy 29:29. The secret things belong unto Jehovah our God, but the things that are revealed belong unto us. I can't tell you how many unexplained circumstances in this past 2 weeks have come together as if planned. It hasn't been pure joy, but it's been amazing. Julius sat quiet for a minute. Then with a sad, quiet smile, he turned to Seth. Well, I hate to say it, but it's time to go, kiddo. The rosy glow in the west, punctuated by the first few glittering stars, reflected the peace and contentment of the two young men as they journeyed back to town, and pulled into the same underground parking garage they had left from. Miles back seemed shorter, Julius said as they walked back to an elevator. This service elevator's pretty neat, Joe, and it doesn't even show. Seth glanced around as they walked out of the dressing room of the men's clothing store. How did we get here? Gotta know your way around, Julius grinned. We'll split up here and you go back down the left side while I go down the right. Side here. Wait for me in the shadows at the front of the mall. I'll be right there. Julius walked out the front doors of the mall and a figure from the shadows joined him. Weather's pleasant, Julius said as they sauntered toward the car. Yes, yes it is. What's that? Seth asked as Julius pulled a slip of paper from under the car wipers. Julius read the paper, then stuck it in his pocket. My stuff is waiting. We'll pick up the other rental car at the motel, then you follow me to your bed and breakfast. After stopping at the motel, Seth followed Julius through city traffic. On the outskirts of Herman, Julius pulled into a park and ride and rummaged in the back of an old pickup truck. Julius hoisted a covered, bulky item out of the truck box and placed it in the trunk of the charcoal-colored car. They were almost to Beetle River when a police car appeared and dawdled along behind them, all the way to the Beetle River bed and breakfast. The police car idled past them when they pulled up to the bed and breakfast and parked. Hello, Julius extended his hand as they came up the steps to the porch. A smallish, balding man stood and returned the gesture. Hi there, I'm Olin Smith, the fellow you spoke to on the phone. This is my wife, Reba. A plump woman with white hair sat on the porch in a rocking chair. Julius C. Armstrong, pleased to meet you. He nodded. My assistant, Matthew Hastings. He's here to help with some technical stuff. Come on in. Reba just took some scones out of the oven. So, you're the Julius Caesar. Reba led the way to the table in the cozy kitchen. Hey, yeah, that's me. How's the book coming? Olin poured the coffee. Have a seat. He gestured toward the kitchen chairs around the table. There's a lot more to a book than meets the eye, Julius said. Yeah, and so much going on that you can't put in a book. Olin frowned as he set their mugs down in front of them. You want some cream and sugar? No, I'm fine. What about you? Julius turned to Seth. I'm fine, the kid said. It's getting worse, Reba stirred her coffee. Her face wore a worried frown. Is that so? Julius feigned surprise as he reached for a scone. Not 2 hours ago, Jack O'Brien stopped at the carryout to get fuel and a pop. A quarter of a mile down the road, guess who pulled him over? Olin's eyes narrowed. You don't say. Julius dropped his scone in surprise. Meacham conveniently found some stuff in the back of Jack's pickup. Jack said any fool could have thrown that in the back of his pickup at the gas station, or since, for that matter. He didn't know where it came from. If that O'Brien has nothing else, he's got nerve. Olin shook his head. I can vouch for that. Julius took a sip of his coffee. While they were arguing about it, a friend of Jack's drove up. Police Chief Mallory, Meacham's boss. Reba turned to Seth. Folks don't care for Officer Meacham. Olin lowered his voice. Some folks are afraid of him. There's rumors. Enough of that now. Another scone and some jelly. Coffee's hot. Have another cup. She passed the tray and shifted to a safer subject. Our boys are both towheads, like you, young man, she pointed to Seth. It's the Anderson genes. Olin's mama's an Anderson. And if you wander back far enough, I'm second cousin on my daddy's side. You folks have a nice place here. Julius sat back in his chair. How'd you come to have a second house, just like the big house? They're called grandparents' houses, Reba said. In the old days, the kids would keep the big main house. The parents would have a separate house, like that one, or several rooms of their own built in onto the main house. Interesting. Would you mind if I take some pictures sometime? I don't know what will get used. The editor sorts through the pictures, but any time, Olin said. Time to get him settled in. Julius shook hands with Olin and Reba. Come on, grab your stuff, buddy. Time's wasting. I'll get the key while y'all get your stuff. We had to do some remodeling after a storm 3 weeks ago. Just got it done, Olin said. Thanks. Seth took the key from Olin and they turned toward the small house next door. So, what do you think? Julie set the suitcase down at the door and looked around the compact house. Kitchen, bedroom, living room, for 1 or 2 people would be fine. Matthew Hastings? Seth said. Matthew is your middle name, and I like Hastings from Pearl. Okay, Hercule. You should see my phone number, Julius grinned at Seth. First, let me set this up, and I'll start filling you in on this case. Julius uncovered an item he had fished from the back of the pickup and began to hook it up to the antenna already in place on the house. Making sure all the curtains were closed, he hooked his computer into the system and brought up pictures and files. Here's some of what's going on, he said as Seth pulled up and perched on the edge of a living room chair. This name of a second-rate crook, Alberto Meister, appears in New York in late 1899. He's a runner for a big-time boss. He disappears but reappears here in Chicago 10 years later when Chicago racketeer Big Jim Calismo brings his nephew from New York to do some dirty work for him. That's in 1910, but Meister disappears again here. The dude must be about 25 when he resurfaced, but it doesn't go anywhere. It just dies out. If he dies out, that's good, right? Can't be the same guy, but the name's back. First in Chicago, and they think he has a link here. And it's the same old racket, crime. Everything it touches turns to an ugly, stinking mess. We picked up some men that were boot-jacking Alvarez Gonzalez, but they're only the tip of what we're looking for. We picked up more of the ring just hours ago in Chicago. The noose is tightening. This should be over by Saturday morning, but I should have warned you between now and then this is dangerous. You can just sit this one out until everything's finished if you want. You're not in too far. I told you I'm here. We'll do this together, Julius. What about this stuff here? I don't think these two cases go together, but this is a puzzle. A young police officer, may remember the name Philip Meacham. I heard the name. Yes, Olin and Reba just mentioned him trying to arrest Ruth's father. His family has had a quarrel with the O'Brien's family for quite a few years now. He's been stalking young Ruth O'Brien after her mother's death. She moved in with, Julius brought up some more pictures, McDonald's. There was a loud thud, and Julius turned to gaze down at Seth. What are you sitting on the floor for, fella? I didn't know. I was asked if I wanted to move with them, but I was floundering, and I guess that's where I wanted to be. Besides, someone needed to stay and take care of Seth, Seth shrugged. I didn't have a location or a name. I didn't think you knew, and they didn't go by another name. But you see why I can't fail, Seth. Too much and too many depend on me. You've never been good at failure, Joe. We'll do this. Seth's gaze met and walked with Julius. How did you end up here? I'm still trying to figure that out, but I'll fill that in later. Julius turned back to his screen. Back to Miss O'Brien. Her mother died 2, going on 3 years ago in November. The police report called it a heart attack. A natural cause of death. Remember Phil Meacham? He was the one who called for an ambulance, the one who found Diana O'Brien. That's pretty fishy if you ask me. Seth sat back on the edge of his chair. What was he doing there? He has no alibi as to why he was there, and it looks like a cover-up took place. There's a new sheriff in town, literally. His name's Mallory. The old one, Prescott Biles, was in cahoot with the Meacham family. But the new guy isn't playing their game. Mallory? That the guy at the repair garage today? Yes, and it gets more convoluted. In Phil Meacham's statement, he says he believed it was murder. Why would he do that and incriminate himself? He says he didn't do it. He came to the back door, heard sounds of a struggle of some sort, and when he went into the dining room, Diana O'Brien was in the last throes of gasping her last breath. Oh, yeah, right. So what do you think? I don't think this story is over yet. You could be telling the truth. Julie shut down the computer and closed it up. I'm going to take this charcoal caprice. It's set up for me, and God forbid you should show up on their radar. Thanks. Welcome. I'll be over tomorrow. Just have odds and ends to work on. If you want to come to church Sunday, I'll show you where the church house is. But you'll have to stay under the scope. Slip in and out without notice. You can see how important it is, but we will be done by next week or die trying. Tomorrow, then, Seth said as Julia shut the front door behind them.